Neil. Okay. Well, I would like to welcome you all to this meeting, and if I just do the usual, read the statement at the start. The Scrutiny Committee meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with the coronavirus regulations and the remote meetings protocol agreed by the Council, which will operate alongside the Council standing orders to ensure that we continue to take democratic decisions in an open and transparent manner. I would remind members that this meeting is being live streamed to the public. Can I request that you all switch off your cameras and mute your microphones when you are not speaking to ensure there is no unnecessary background noise and help with the audio and visual quality of the broadcast. The Council standing orders and code of conduct will apply at all times during this virtual meeting in the same way as ordinary meetings, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. And I also remind members to ensure their chat function is switched on and to use that facility to indicate to me when they wish to speak on a particular item. Please do not speak until I invite you to do so, and remember to unmute your microphone and switch your camera on. For the benefit of everyone watching on the live stream, when I invite members to cast their votes on any particular item, they will do so electronically using the voting facility in the chat function. The votes will automatically be counted and are recorded on the system, but individual votes are not identified on the screen, and the chat room poll is not available on the live stream for public viewing. However, I will announce the numbers of votes cast for and against and any abstentions before I declare the result. And finally, as well as being broadcast live, a recorded version of this remote meeting will be uploaded onto the Council's website for public viewing as soon as possible after the meeting. Welsh translation of the proceedings can be provided upon request, and the images and sound recordings may also be used for training purposes within the Council. Thank you very much. The next item on your agenda are apologies. Neil?
Apologies for today, Chair. Our councillors Chris Evans and Charles Ferris.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, item 2, declaration of interest. Are there any, please? No, thank you very much. And the first item on your agenda is the 2021 service plan end of year reviews. And I believe it's the head of service to present the report.
Chair, I think that's me up first.
Oh yes, hello Tracy. Welcome.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, Chair, just by way of a brief introduction, obviously you've got the reports before you. It obviously covers the last financial year, so that's April 2020 to the end of March 2021. I've been operating in the as the head of service for that period of time, and the report before you gives you an insight into some of the sort of unprecedented challenges and opportunities that we faced during that period. Obviously, COVID has had a significant impact on our services. We've been dealing with a lot of vulnerable residents and also trying to deliver some of our usual services in the wake of different ways of working, trying to continue with some of our regeneration schemes, and also continuing with some of the support that we've got through our neighbourhood hubs. I think it's been a very good year for the neighbourhood hubs in terms of the operating model, because it wasn't long before the start of the pandemic that the neighbourhood hubs model was actually launched, and what that has done is shown us that that our community regeneration colleagues working through the hubs and all the other partner services that we've got working through the hubs are able to deliver you know, some of the sort of very front-facing and very critical services in a mixture of, sort of virtual and face-to-face methods. So we've managed to keep flying start sessions going. We've delivered food parcels to those people that have been shielding and haven't been able to access food and other services, baby bundles, nappies, that sort of thing, where people were really in need of support, and the staff stepped up to do that. The other part of obviously regeneration investment in housing involves a lot of the economic development work. So COVID has clearly had an impact on economic development and our aspirations to continue growth in Newport. But that hasn't stopped us from continuing to drive things forward. So we've seen a lot of our schemes continue in terms of refurbishment work and regeneration work. So we've seen the indoor market work started on that, with completion due just after Christmas now, and we've also seen work continue with the Market Arcade refurbishment there. And we also announced exciting plans for a new health and wellbeing centre, which would unlock a site for Coleg Gwent to develop a new campus. So we're certainly, trying to, one side of RAH, handle and react to a pandemic. And on the other hand, we're trying to sort of continue driving the service forward and improving facilities and the opportunities for the people in Newport. One of the most challenging areas for RH has been in the housing area, because you can imagine, the impact with people and homelessness in particular. However, again, I think the team have really stepped up to that, and they've managed to embrace the extended duty in terms of accommodating people with who are determined to be homeless. We've sourced over 300 units of temporary accommodation to house those people, and we've seen some significant reductions in the number of people sleeping rough on the streets over the course of the pandemic. It has been challenging. Clearly there's been a big demand on temporary accommodation, so we've seen some hotels, for example, not operating. Some of those hotels which we'd usually have used for some of our accommodation needs. But again, I think the team and the service has really stepped up and sort of delivered in the face of some quite significant challenges over the last year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tracy. Thanks very much. Cabinet member wish to add anything, please?
No, thank you, Chair. I've nothing to add, but happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Leader. Thank you. Committee, over to you. Any questions, please?
I'd just like to thank everybody for their hard work in the Ringland Hub. It's been really good. Can you hear me?
Yes, carry on, Mel.
Sorry, yeah, it's a bit awkward because I can't see your reactions. I don't know where to take, it's probably not in this forum, but maintenance issues that are ongoing regarding the hub. I'd probably take that, follow that up elsewhere, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, please, Chair. We could. I'll have a conversation with Councillor Linton outside of this meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. But what I've been seeing, because it's only across the road, seems to be well attended and very good. Thank you.
Is that answer acceptable, Councillor Linton?
Yes, yeah, that's fine. Fine. Thank you.
I think Councillor Whitcott is indicating.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry for sending that in. I just realised I typed in capitals there. That wasn't. Yeah, it was just a comment that Tracy makes in the document where she says that, the author says, our key challenge going forward is addressing the backlog of cases in areas such as planning and disabled facilities grants, as well as preparing for potential surges in caseloads in housing prevention when the embargo on evictions is lifted. And I just wondered how it was envisaged that the issue of potential evictions, because I would have thought there were a lot of genuine cases in there, but there will be some others who've used it as a sort of shield, probably, to avoid making payment. And I just wondered how it was envisaged that would be managed. Can I also echo what Malcolm said, that I think the officers have done a tremendous job during the COVID period, and I personally like to thank them for that, and I think we all would.
Thank you, Councillor Whitcott. Do you need to respond, Tracy, or have you noted the comment?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I think the only thing I would say was that all these cases will have to be considered on a case-by-case basis. The embargo for evictions has actually been extended until the end of September now, so that's just pushed that back a little bit. But clearly we do need to assess those on a case-by-case basis. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you, Councillor Whitcott. Any other member wish to ask the question, please? Well, if not, I'll take the opportunity of this period of silence to ask a question. I think the reference in the report, and if I quote, the biggest success throughout this year has been the way our staff have responded and reacted to an unprecedented event with such positive professionalism, trying to find solutions to any problems posed and going the extra mile in support of their colleagues. I think that generally should be recorded. I haven't heard any other councillor not congratulate our staff in a similar fashion. And I mean, the COVID crisis tends to overshadow everything and anything that we've done, but we certainly have organised ourselves effectively. The public, I've not no complaints from public about the way the council has carried out its business during this difficult time, and I think we must always record our thanks to staff. So that's me finished. Is there anyone else wishes to ask the question, please? No? Can you hear me?
Sorry, Chair, Councillor Berry wishes to speak.
I do apologise. Councillor Berry, over to you. Councillor Berry, you're on mute, I think.
Let's give it another go.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, sir.
Oh, thank goodness for that. Right, I would say that we've gone through a period of unprecedented, I'm going to use the word dancing on our feet. And that's not fair to say that, because it sounds as though it's a chaotic approach to a completely moving target. Whilst I accept that the target has been moving and moving a lot, I would like to congratulate our council leaders and the council officers in particular for the way that they've dealt with this moving situation. I would like also to say, though, that having gone through this masher, the way that we all have, is there somebody recording the lessons learned from it? Because it's a little bit like a war situation. We don't sum up until the war's over. But if we were to log all the wonderful things that have happened and the way people adapted to the situation as it changed, it would be great to capture those golden nuggets in case anything like this ever happened again. So my question is shortened to, is anybody keeping a record of what's going on, what went well and what didn't?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Berry. Does the officer wish
Can
to
I answer that, Chair? As
yes,
the lead,
please. Yes.
just to reassure you and reassure colleagues that there's a monthly update to Cabinet on the recovery, so that captures not just the response to COVID, but also the recovery actions as well. So everything is logged.
Okay, thank you, Leader. Any other committee member, please? Questions?
Chair, if I could just say this, it has been an unprecedented situation, and I think it's important to note that it's unprecedented as far as the leadership of the council is concerned as well, and that actually no other previous leader or leadership team has ever had to to deal with a situation like this, or anything remotely near it, perhaps, other than wartime. And I think they do deserve our thanks and congratulations on the way in which they dealt with it.
Okay, point well made. Thank you. Any other committee member, please? No.
No other hands are raised, Chair.
Okay, Neil. Right. So do we vote to accept the report, or do we move to the next item, please?
We would move to the next service area, Chair, if the committee no longer have any questions for this service area.
Okay. Committee happy with that, please?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, fine.
Very much. Okay then, Neil, the next area is, please.
The next service area would be city services. And thanks for attending as well, Councillor and Tracy.
Yeah, thank you very much. Could have done that. Yeah, thank you. So, city services, head of service, please.
Deputy Leader, would you like me to start?
Yes, if you like, Paul, that'd be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I think I've set out in my summary really the projects and the aspirations listed in the service plan have become secondary throughout the year. Mainly our biggest achievement was keeping services running. As most of my area covers operational services, the ongoing challenges in the middle of the year and the second lockdown put a lot of pressure on our frontline managers and our supervisors, and they really rose to the challenge to keep our services operational and working effectively. Though we did achieve a fair few things, we progressed well along our service plan, and I'm particularly pleased to see a further increase in our recycling rate, which means that we're likely to, for the second year running, be the best performing recycling city in the UK. That's something I think we can all be proud of. Just picking out some other comments from across the service plan, the budget came in under budget. To be honest, that flatters us a little bit. That was only really due to the Welsh Government's support for local authorities. We would have been about £3.5 million over budget if it wasn't for us being able to reclaim our lost income, and that remains a risk going forward when we see how services settle and change. They put on there, we generate around 1.7 million a year from car parking fees alone. Welsh Government have helped and support that shortfall this year, which has been a lifeline to local authorities, not just ours. I think in terms of our performance, in some areas, ironically, COVID has helped. We've adapted to some new ways. The big ticket item on there, when looking at performance, the CA site, we struggled for years to try and meet our 65% target. This year we've exceeded 90%. Now that's not due to our individual brilliance, but we had to adapt for COVID, which has meant us being able to filter people through better, being able to organise through our booking system, and that has meant we've been able to get people to segregate much more materials than previously. So that's a real plus. Equally, the deterioration of the highway asset, which has been a feature for the last few years, paused during this year. Less cars on the road, more cycles, more active travel, which was also a positive thing. The one area where we have struggled, and you can see on the indicators, is in terms of the contact centre and call handling times. Unfortunately, have risen slightly this year. I don't think that's a detriment to the staff. They've taken on a large number of additional duties, and you've got to remember that with some of our offices shut, we've also taken on the coroner's support. We've had to deal with all that and adapt to that really rapidly. And it's great that more people are accessing the council through digital means, so using our app, but the sheer increase in communication needed with the new ways of working has resulted in sometimes that wait time going up. It's now looking a bit more normal, and we'll monitor and watch that as we sort of return to our new normal. That summarises what I want to say, Chair. Chair, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Cabinet member wish to add anything at this stage, please?
Yes, Chair, if I may, just to put my thanks on record to City Services for realistically keeping the services of the city open and running in this year that was like no other. That has been mentioned in the summary, and the excellent work performed at the HWRC site. I'd just like to draw your attention to one of the risks there. One has been mentioned about the highways asset, but the other one about ash dieback, which we all know is an airborne disease that affects ash trees, and we have already undertaken some extensive and expensive work, as you will all realise from the difference in appearance that the northern end of Cullion Road has made. That's all I wanted to say at this point, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Committee now, questions, please. Are there any?
I think Councillor Berry has indicated he wants to talk, Chair.
Councillor Berry.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if my raise hand is working, but thanks, Neil, for bringing that up. I'd like to put on record that many people, and I can't give you the exact number, but many is more than 10, have spoken to me individually as I've been around the ward and thanked the, I'm going to call them the bin men, and I don't think that's a fair title, to be honest, but the street cleansers and so on. They've got an awful lot of praise off the people in the area that I cover, which is Beechwood, okay? And I'm sure it happens elsewhere. I just want to put it on record. They've been doing an awful lot more than they're supposed to, I guess. I don't want them to get into trouble for doing it, but it's much appreciated. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Any other councillor, please?
Councillor Whitcutt, please, Chair.
Councillor Whitcutt.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree with what Councillor Berry said, but actually I would cast it much more widely than that, because I think in many ways that city services have been at the very sharp end in terms of the pandemic, and you know, it's not just recycling, refuse collection, it's highways and a whole load of other sort of less well-known areas that they've had to cope with, and they've had to cope with the demands of the pandemic itself, with the fact that it must have hit staff quite severely, the actual pandemic, and then trying to change methods of working and so on and so forth, and then on top of that, you've still got to, they've had to liaise with the emergency services as well, and I think it's been a tremendously difficult job, and I think that all of them have done very well, including the head of service and the cabinet member, and everyone else involved. So I'd just like to congratulate them on that.
Thank you, Councillor Whitcutt. Thank you. Any other councillor, any other committee member, please?
Councillor Al-Nuaimi, please, Chair.
Councillor Al-Nuaimi, floor is yours.
Just wanted to say really that member city services in particular, I think their reaction to many approaches I've made for various issues during the sort of last 12 months, they've been absolutely excellent. You know, when it comes to fly tipping, when it comes to any issues we've reported, they've been very good. So really, I've got to praise them on this occasion. The one issue really that has come to our attention during the period is the loss of the face-to-face contact in the information station. My ward has a lot of resident permit parking, and you know, for years obviously people I used to renew their
permits and all that, and they go to the information station. I think on this occasion we've had a few complaints about delays, and you know, in some cases it has resulted in them being booked by the wardens and all that. So while again I applaud the success of the CPE, I think we've got to bear in mind that whatever we do in terms of the online services, and they've been excellent, is that the face-to-face contact, Paul in particular, is really highly appreciated by people who may not be very sort of comfortable with using IT services. So it's a lesson, you know. Earlier on it's been spoken about lessons of this period, and the lesson of the face-to-face contact for many of our citizens is still valued, and is really what they consider the council is good at. So I'm sort of making that observation that we need to maintain that side of the service.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor McDad.
Would you like me to come back, Chair?
By all means, yes.
Yeah, I think we recognise, Councillor Anawami, that when we had to adapt our services at short notice, some things weren't adapted perfectly, and you mentioned the infestation. The manual printing of passes does cause that problem, and it led to a couple of delays. We have actually managed to make that now, I think it goes live over this week or next week, an electronic process, so the paper permits may not be needed to help improve that situation, but also recognise, yes, some people do prefer the personal face-to-face approach. We've all had to adapt, you know. We're all sat. It's a very odd committee. It still feels very weird. Speaking from my office at home to members over the internet, you know, that still feels a little bit odd and a little bit alien to me. I think we're all sort of finding our feet still, and you know, it won't stay like this forever, will it? But what it goes back to probably won't be the same as what it was before. But you know, we do need to learn that, and we do need to make sure that no one's left behind. It's really important to make sure that we're an inclusive service as much as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I made the same point actually 3 weeks ago when we were dealing with you know, with the sort of the new way of working, the hybrid way of working. I think we've got to maintain some face-to-face contact, obviously, in any new system. So, you know, I think that's a point that I feel we need to consider sort of seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor?
Councillor,
Sorry.
Sorry, Chair, I don't know whether my hand is up. I'm trying to. Can you see it?
No, I can't see you, but you can carry on if you want. Yeah.
Okay, right, thanks. I'd like to firstly thank the cabinet member and his team for the work that they've done throughout this pandemic, and as you say, the bin men as well, and the collections, and the waste team that's been coming around. They've been doing a real good job in these difficult circumstances. Now, the question being now is regarding the cemeteries. If we are going down the line of stopping vehicles in and out of the cemeteries during the week, what notices are we giving out rather than online, because we've got older people? What public notices in the free press or anything that we're doing to let people know that physically incapable, or it's difficult to walk to these areas to put the flowers on?
Okay.
Shall I respond, Chair?
Yes, Paul, can carry on.
Yeah. So in terms of when originally decisions were made to reduce vehicle access, that was during the height of the first wave of the pandemic. So although the council tried its best to communicate, they still had limited communication tools available to us. I would say on that is, you know, we need a safe operating area. We do allow vehicles in at the weekend, and we also allow special dispensation for those who are physically immobile, as long as we can accommodate it and we haven't got heavy machinery working at the time. That the pandemic unfortunately accelerated a lot of work that was needed in the cemeteries for obvious reasons, and so we are using a lot more heavy machinery now, and so safety has to be paramount to us. But like I said, for people who do have particular mobility issues, we are able to make accommodation during the day as long as there's not actually an active funeral, active work going on. But they also are allowed to visit in the weekend.
All right, thank you for that response. But you haven't actually said how you're going to communicate to these people with the to getting allowing them in with, say, if they got disabled badges or anything like that. Because at the minute they're not turning up. People in my ward have been complaining.
Yeah, so
they refuse. So that's the one point. And the second point is obviously in the wet and the rain, those people that do turn up, there doesn't seem to be any shelter there that they can run to, or just to get under cover as such. And also they've got to carry water bottles on buses and things. I don't know where you can make it clear for the water points, taps. If you can make them a bit more, you're going down the line, make them a bit more localised in certain areas.
So I can certainly take back that comment on water taps and making them more prominent. That's something that we can pick up. That's not a problem. In terms of communication, obviously it does say on the gates now opening times, and I think most people are aware. We try not to encourage access during the week, because we do have to prioritise the funerals themselves and try and make that our number one priority and our number one safety. But that, we'll look how we can disseminate that information more to those who perhaps don't have full digital access.
Thank you, Councillor Linton. Thank you, Paul Jones.
Thank you, Paul. Cheers.
Any other questions, please?
Chair, could I just make a comment on that, if I could?
Certainly, Councillor Jevons.
Yeah, I understand what Councillor Linden is saying, and Paul's reply also, that we've had so many compliments as well from a peace and quiet point of view through the cemeteries, when people are saying their last farewells to their loved ones when burying them, but they haven't got cars moving in and out behind them. So whilst I understand what Councillor Linden is saying, we've also had compliments on the other as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other councillor, please? Could I make a comment, please? I read in the report that we're likely to retain our status as the UK's best performing city for the second year running on recycling. I mean, I find that an amazing achievement. I mean, if you are really talking UK, that's something to sing loud and clear and not boast about. But we see enough negative news in the Argus about different aspects of the way the council is operating. And if you've got a positive such as that, that really needs to be publicised to the maximum, I would suggest. They say, don't hold your light under a bushel.
I think we have made, great progress over the last 3 years. I think, this committee itself reviewed the strategy at the time when we were implementing it. So there's still a lot more to do, and really we want to eradicate as much waste as possible. But it's a real positive that we've improved there. We've also not mentioned here, but the increase in performance at the CA site and the change that has now been shortlisted for the National CA Site of the Year Awards, one of 3 nationally shortlisted. So, we're making some good progress in that area, but there's still a lot more to do as well.
Excellent, excellent. Well, as I said, the point I'm making, we need to publicise our success, yes, by whatever means. Next councillor, please.
No other hands up, Chair.
Thank you. So is everybody prepared to note the report and accept the report, please? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. We then move to the next area on the service plan, which is finance.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. And hopefully you can all hear me. I'll just take you through the summary of the service plan. So you've just heard from Paul, of course, who's right at the front end of operational services, and normally I would say that finance isn't in that kind of same area of the council. However, last year it did feel as if it really was, and that's because of some of the things that we do in finance, and obviously responding to the COVID pandemic, and I'll explain that one now. So middle of March, in line with kind of everybody else, a lot of the finance staff went and worked at home in a very different way. From day one, really, I think that my colleagues' attitudes was really good. You know, people took their screens home, their keyboards home. They really wanted to make sure that they could work at home as best that they could, and the council did obviously do various work then to make sure that everybody across the council could work effectively at home. But even before we actually went and did that, I was certainly aware that a lot of colleagues within finance had really grasped that themselves, and were doing everything that they could. So in terms of kind of the major issues kind of last year, business support was obviously a massive issue. You'll all be aware nationally of the support that businesses have received. Here in Wales, a lot of that support was administered by local authorities, both by the revenue team, but also by the business support team in RAH as well. Some of the key kind of figures for us here: we did administer £50 million worth of business grants by the end of March, and £20 million worth of rate reliefs for those businesses that were eligible for that. We actually went and borrowed money in the middle of March to ensure that we could pay out to businesses as fast as we possibly could. So Welsh Government told us in the middle of March that, you know, they would be putting us into funds in the middle of April, but actually we went and borrowed the money ourselves so that we could crack on and get that money out as fast as possible. It was obviously then reimbursed. So both myself and Emma really involved in kind of designing that support with Welsh Government, because we were implementing it. Then it was important that we had a say in the design of that. And the revenues team, you know, unexpectedly at that point have been administering these business support grants, versions 1, versions 2, versions 3 and 4, up until the very end of the financial year, and that's been a really big sort of strain on the team. So, you know, people that live in Newport will have noticed a reduction in response times for, say, general council tax queries and business queries, but that's because they've had to prioritise their time to administer these business grants. So that's been an incredibly big challenge, and, you know, like every other council in Wales, you know, we've kind of achieved what we needed to sort of do there, really. The accountancy team have been really instrumental, really, in kind of coordinating and making sure that the additional costs, you know, Paul just mentioned his additional costs now across the council. We've incurred £18 million worth of, you know, direct COVID costs, which we've had to claim back from the Welsh Government. And on top of that, £5 million worth of lost or reduced income that we've also been supported by the Welsh Government on as well. That support has been really instrumental across Wales and to this particular council in making sure that we could respond appropriately as we needed to. So that's really added a really big layer of additional work to the accounting team. The procurement team Really incredible work working with colleagues across services on making sure that key suppliers were supported throughout this period. So if you can imagine bus companies, if you can imagine Chartwell's school catering, etc., it clearly wasn't going to be good enough that we just stopped paying them because our schools were closed. You do need these supply chains to be around, you know, on the other side. So actually, there was national UK guidance on that, adopted by the Welsh Government, and the procurement team, alongside accountancy teams, really worked alongside key colleagues who maybe dealt with some of the bigger contracts to try and make sense. So, you know, Chartwell's contract I've already mentioned, the bus companies, and, you know, Newport Bus in particular, Newport Live, our kind of leisure provider, you know, we had to have really detailed meetings and issues just to make sure that we were supporting these organisations as best as we could. And then the audit team also got involved. They did some fraud checks on the various business grants, and actually, you know, they were pretty stuck until about September time. So actually, they were very flexible. We've even had one or two of them in there working on the test and trace service. So, you know, really grateful for their flexibility there. In terms of performance and meeting our objectives, as the report shows, you know, vast majority of our performance measures and our objectives have been actually met. So we have, you know, we haven't sort of just been doing COVID work. We've also kept an eye on some of those key areas as well, and obviously the detail is within the report, but vast majority of those are green, a few are kind of amber. So really quite an achievement in the context. Obviously, as we move forward now, we're still obviously dealing with the impacts from the pandemic, and actually the Welsh Government support is still there until September at least. So therefore, the accountancy team are still coordinating and claiming additional costs, etc., where they exist. Things have slowed down a little bit in the revenues team, and you know, clearly we're kind of hoping that now continues. But we do have a lot of catching up to sort of do now in that area, and we do have a proper full normal internal audit timetable, and we're hoping that we can deliver on that this year, albeit our new working arrangements, you know, does clearly create some challenges in that area as well. But, you know, it's not been an easy year. We have had staff who have struggled, and we've supported each other, and in particular those staff as best as we can, and it has been a successful year. And, you know, certainly with the revenues team in particular, one, you know, where the team's efforts was absolutely instrumental in supporting the local economy, and, you know, it was pleasing to see all the kind of good feedback that we did receive on that in that area. Thank you, Chair. Happy to take questions, and the service managers are on the call as well. I believe they've got some IT issues, but they can hear you, and hopefully they will be able to sort of talk as well if there's a question that they need to answer. Thank you.
Okay, Marianne, thank you very much. Sorry. Committee.
Can I? Sorry, can I? Okay.
I sounded as if I was in an echo chamber then. I don't know. Did everybody hear me? If we move now, committee questions, please. And Mick, Dad, you've indicated.
Yeah, Just on the point, the last point mentioned about the IT problems, IT issues you were saying, Marion, so should we not try to sort this out actually? Because especially with these meetings, I don't know, you know, I mean, 3 weeks ago we had the problem and we're having it today. And if it's a Microsoft problem, should we not resolve it? Because we're going to be working like that for a while yet, aren't we?
Yes, you know, I actually don't run the IT service, but I can certainly comment. I think generally across the 12 months, the IT has been incredibly stable and good. You know, yes, we do have blips. We have the odd day. We have a couple of particular challenges within the finance department in terms of some of the systems that they use, but on the whole, our IT colleagues with SRS have also they moved very quickly back in March, April 2020 to really make IT as stable as possible for the organisation, and that has been the case in general. I would say this council, unlike many, was very well provided for agile working in the sense of we're all working off our laptops. You know, even though most people were working in offices in a traditional way, they were doing so from a laptop, albeit connected to a bigger screen and a separate keyboard. You know, people literally just swiped those off their desks, took them home and carried on working. Many councils were not in that boat. You know, so the foundations, the infrastructure was pretty good in Newport for us to move to a more agile way of working. And I think that the IT has been very good. And you know, I think our IT colleagues in SRS have done a really good job in keeping that going. There are frustrations, there are problems, but actually, if you're looking at the bigger picture, it's not been too bad at all.
Okay. Can I just ask about the council tax collection? Did you notice a big difference between the COVID year and previously?
For sure, absolutely, and you would expect that to happen for two reasons. One is, you know, households making their own decisions about what they could afford to pay and what they couldn't, or did they want to pay, or would they rather keep the money in their accounts because they didn't know what was going to happen. So there was individual households' decisions. Secondly, courts, council tax is a regulated debt. You know, we can send reminders. We can't go beyond that unless you've got a court order then to, you know, summons to take you to the next kind of levels of courts weren't operating. We got one court session in last year. We would normally have about 4, maybe 5 over the year. And of course, a lot of our staff were working on business support grants, so that was difficult. I don't know if Emma can hear us. I think Emma's got IT issues, having just said that IT has been pretty good. Today there is an issue, but Emma might be able to add anything else. Emma?
Hi, I don't know whether you can see me.
Yeah, we can.
No, I can't see you.
I can hear you.
So I can't see any of you. Just building on what Mariam was saying there. You know, we hear the word unprecedented a lot. You know, I'm a bit sick of it, but it is apt in our case in that we had an unprecedented amount of work last year with our council taxpayers, a lot of whom were very worried at the start of the pandemic that they weren't going to have jobs to go back to. The furlough scheme wasn't firmed out initially, so there were worries about, you know, how they were going to meet their bills. And then through the year, unfortunately, what we've seen, not everybody has gone back into employment. Some have unfortunately lost their jobs, which has impacted on council tax collection. So we are around 1% lower than we have been in previous years. It doesn't sound an awful lot, but it is in actuality. You know, it's you know, touching £1 million more debt than we would have liked to have had if it had been a normal year. And that combined then with the current year's council tax means that some households are facing a lot of catching up to do, and Myrian touched on that just now, which is the work my team are now trying to put in place for this year coming up. We have had the problems with the courts. We did manage to get a limited amount of liability orders that enable us to, unbelievably, we need to actually get maybe an attachment to somebody's earnings that they might be asking us to do, but we can't legally do it without a court order. So we were thwarted there, and unfortunately we've been a bit thwarted so far this year in that the courts have not opened back up to us in the way that they have been available in previous years, again due to COVID, due to the need of social distancing. So we are trying to put our plans in place for this year, but we are somewhat dependent on the availability of court time. So yes, it has been a difficult year, and the council tax collection has been affected, but we are hopeful that once we can get fully up and running, you know, in terms of available court time and planning, that we will be in a position to catch up and hopefully help our households get themselves back on track before they get too far behind.
Okay, and in terms of the business support, I mean, generally speaking, I think it's been favourable in terms of the response to it. I have had, you know, heard criticism about it, and I have sort of, you know, argued that the council is open to always help any business because, you know, within the policy, obviously. I think Marian referred to a survey. So what is what is the actual situation in terms of, you know, the businesses' reaction to the help that they've been getting through us?
Okay, well, I can only speak for the businesses that I've spoken to and the owners that I've spoken to, and it's been overwhelmingly positive from you know, the businesses that I've dealt with. Most of them have been very appreciative of the business grants that we've been administering on behalf of Welsh Government. I think over the last year we paid out close to 7,500 grants of various amounts. You know, the scheme wasn't intended to help every single business. It was intended to help those businesses that were most affected by the closures and the restrictions that have been in place. So your hospitality, your leisure, those sorts of businesses, as well as retail. And generally, as I say, it's been very well received, and they've appreciated the speed in which we've been able to get the money out to them. There are also business grants being dealt with in business, I can't think of the name of it, the other team, the regeneration side, which are for the self-employed and people who don't have premises. My team dealt with the grants that for businesses that had bricks and mortar premises. So the other people who have had to claim have been the self-employed and various other sort of freelancers and people that didn't have maybe work from home, mobile hairdressers, you know, good example there. So they've been helped from a different fund, but again, you know, that's been very well received and fully committed, I believe. So yeah.
Can you put a monetary value on the 7,500 grants we've dispersed?
Yeah,
report,
I can just quickly add them up. I think we're about, that's about 34, 42. It's around about £50 million, thereabouts.
50.
Roughly. Well, that I've just added it up quickly in my head. I'm looking at the figures on my spreadsheet.
I mean, that's you know, that's a good story, and I am not sure that
but it's you know, it's been over the course of the year. That's just my team now. That's not including you know, the business support team. You know, that's the side that my team have dealt with, and they've been doing that right up until, as Myrian said, the end of March. So, you know, it has been pretty full on. We've never had to do anything like it previously, and really hope that we don't have to
No,
again.
good.
It's actually about just under 47 million. My rough maths was not quite up to speed, but that's what's been distributed by my particular team. Yeah.
And that is to Newport businesses via Newport Council, yeah?
It's to businesses that operate in Newport. The majority of them are Newport businesses, but some of them might be chains or businesses that have got multiple premises across Wales or even the UK. But that's within the realms of the scheme.
Okay, thank you.
Could I just say on that point, I mean, you said that the response from business has been good, and they're satisfied and happy with the service Newport City Council Finance have supplied. But sometimes it helps if we have a letter of thanks and we have a bit of an evidence trail on that, because this is a massive area, and I do hear good stories and good responses from businesses, but it would be nice sometimes to have a record of that, and the only way we can have a record of that is when they say thank you, so to speak.
I do actually have emails and correspondence of businesses that have expressed their gratitude and thanked the team for their help in navigating the scheme. So if you would like, I can arrange for those to be forwarded. Let me know who would like where to send them. I can do that.
Well, for example, there's an organisation that represents all the businesses in the city centre, isn't there? The name escapes me now. I was on the board at one time.
Yeah, the bid.
The bid. Yeah, it would be nice if the bid, for example, acknowledged what the council and what your department has done for it during this pandemic. If they don't wish to do so, then fine. But if they are that thankful, so to speak, it doesn't hurt sometimes to say thank you in writing, does it?
As Emma has said, Councillor Richards, we have had a lot of correspondence, and it was good to get it because Emma's team was looking at over 1,000 outstanding emails at any point in time. Not all of it COVID business grant stuff, but just everything. And actually, they did help, and it was good to see the efforts were being appreciated. And not everybody was eligible for a grant. And clearly there were also some people who were very disappointed. But the vast majority of people that corresponded with us were grateful that we got cracking with it. And as I said to you, we went and borrowed money at the beginning of March to start paying the money out really quickly. I would say over the first month or so of the scheme, so this is the middle of March last year to the middle of April, Newport City Council was probably ahead of the game and still was in the front pack in terms of the speed of making payments, and that's because we were put into funds so that we could start getting the cash out of the door.
Well, as I said, this is a good news story during this difficult COVID period, and good news stories are welcome, and I congratulate you and your department on the way they performed.
No, thank you for that, and that does mean a lot. And certainly, I've spent the last 12 months thanking everybody, and even writing to sort of people personally to sort of write to thank them as well. So it's been for all colleagues, not just in finance, and for all of us as individuals and sort of families, it's been a most unusual year, and in many cases quite tragic as well. So it's been a monumental effort by everybody concerned, in particular Emma's team. We're not a frontline service, let's say like Paul and City Services, but it has really felt like that this year, and actually everybody responded really well. I mean, it was staggering. It was incredibly humbling, I have to say.
Thank you very much, Marion. Any other questions from committee members, please?
Yes, please, Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chair, can I just ask, obviously with the gyms and leisure centres across the nation shutting down, and they've lost over 3 billion at least in takings and revenue. How is Newport Live coped, and how has that affected us in any way, please?
So we, Newport Live was probably one of the handful, a dozen of the really large organisations that we kept in close touch with as a key supplier to the council. So their income obviously was significantly impacted, and therefore we were able to work with them to work out what their net losses were, because they were obviously saving money as well, because they were furloughing staff, etc. You weren't heating the water, etc., etc. But we were able to do some lost income claims, or so that the council could effectively pay them a slightly higher subsidy last year in order to sort of keep them where they would have been anyway. So it's not easy still for them. Clearly they are starting to open up, but people are not going to start jumping back into sort of gyms at the same rates as maybe kind of they were. But we are continuing to keep in touch with Steve Ward and his finance people, so that we just keep an understanding going as to how things are going there, and we will continue certainly until September to make any claims on their behalf, so that the council can financially support them as needed.
Okay. Councillor Ayer,
Thank
do you have?
you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other committee member, please? Questions?
And Councillor Whitcutt, please, Chair.
Oh, Councillor Whitford, I see the hands now, so sorry.
Yeah, no, it's the hands just stopped working on mine for some reason. But anyway, there we are. I just wanted to say to Myrian that I've seen comments about the Newport business support on social media, and actually they've been positive as well. And some people have said that if it hadn't been for that it's contributed to keeping their businesses afloat. So I thought you should know that, and I'm sounding a bit like a sort of like a chorus line for the council here, but
Marianne?
Hello, I think Councillor Whitcutt may have frozen there in kind of mid sentence. We were aware of the social media. Obviously, we keep an eye on that. That's really important feedback, and certainly, I will be passing on your acknowledgement to the revenues team after this meeting now, because it does mean a lot to colleagues to recognise their achievements and kind of hard work. So thank you for that. Councillor Whitcutt is still frozen now, I believe, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's because I said that IT had been operating reasonably well all year. And obviously,
if Councillor Whitcutt's frozen, somebody better warm him up then. Can you hear me, Councillor Whitcutt? Oh, you're leaving now.
I suspect he's leaving, and then he'll log on again.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay. Can I just make a general point on this IT system and IT equipment, etc. I think all of us now, especially elected members, have had problems during the past weeks and months. And although it's been a difficult period and we've survived and we've got through it, I think sometime in the near future we need a review, perhaps, of all the equipment, what we're supplied with, how it works, how it operates. And we perhaps also need a review on training, because if we move forward to the future and we have a revised method of operation, elected members in particular need training on that. The equipment needs to be up to scratch. And I think we need a general discussion, look at the IT systems. We've managed to get through today basically again, but there have been a lot of hiccups during the process.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I will pass on those comments to IT colleagues. I don't think Rhys Cornwall's on this call today, but I will pass on your comments, Councillor Richards. But I would just make a very general statement that you know that clearly there are hiccups, and we've clearly got a few this afternoon. But the general feeling over the last 12 months is that we transitioned really quickly, really well, and that the IT system has been broadly stable. Broadly stable, and there will be hiccups, and we have had those. It's not perfect, but it certainly surpassed most people's expectations, because we did think this is going to be a little bit difficult, but actually it surpassed our kind of expectations, and good, really grateful for our IT colleagues and SRS for sort of doing that, and that's most people in Gwent as well, because SRS obviously supports the Gwent councils, and their experiences are similar to ours. It's been a better experience than what was feared at the very beginning, with the IT work, and it generally has across the.
To be clear, I'm not indicating any criticism. I think we've got through what we've got through.
Yeah,
we are where we are today, but in the future, perhaps we need to review some of it to make sure that we can change it, adapt it, and training is part of that as well, I would suggest.
I'll certainly pass that on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions from committee, please?
Just on that point, Chair. Just on that point. Sorry, I was just about to comment on the IT, and the link went down. And I was just going to say how well they were doing. I was actually, and actually, even when there were password problems that I had for a couple of weeks, but the IT staff worked very, very hard to resolve that. And to be fair, there are other problems outside the council, and what just happened then, I don't think was anything really to do with the council. I think it was down to the transmitter, probably locally, the base station serving here. So I think there are a lot that needs to be taken into account as well. But I echo what you said.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other committee man with a question?
I had a raised hand, if you can't see it.
I can't see it, no, but you carry on, Graham.
Definitely, I got a raised hand, so here goes. I would like to point out that, in particular, the desk staff that support the IT team, that's the ones that you go to when something's wrong with your laptop, etc., right? They've always been responsive to me, I got to be honest. They've jumped through hoops to get stuff done, and it's worth mentioning those poor guys and gals who don't get too many good pats on the back, I'm sure, but they certainly deserve it. Goodness me, the times they've helped me, fantastic, great service, well done.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Berry. Thank you. Any other councillor, please? Neil, are we at the end now then? Conclusion of committee reports, would you suggest?
That's right, Chair. If the committee don't have any other questions, we can go to taking the conclusions and recommendations.
Okay, but I think I first must thank all officers for their presentations today, and cabinet members and the leader for their input. And thank you all very much, and keep up the good work, so to speak. So we move now to conclusions, and is that just the committee, or do officers stay in attendance?
Oh, that would just be the committee, please, Chair.
Okay. I've thanked all the officers and the cabinet members and the leader, and I wish them a safe journey to wherever they're going. And we now move to the conclusion of committee reports, please.
Okay, thanks very much, Chair. So with the reports of the service areas, did the committee feel that they had enough information given to them as well? And was there any kind of comments and recommendations that you would like us to take over, first of all, to regeneration?
Okay, does the committee understand that? So it's regeneration first, please.
Yeah, all fine as far as I'm concerned, Chair.
Okay. Anyone else, please?
No, fine, Chair.
Sorry, I was on mute. I have no issues either.
Okay. Thank you, Graham.
Okay. Is there any comments in regards to city services? I've noted down that Paul will be taking a comment down about making the water taps more prominent within the cemetery. So I can take that as a comment, as a recommendation from the committee. Was there anything else that you would like me to take forward?
Well, I would like the,
No, Chair, sorry.
yeah, I would
So-
like the,
Yep, that then Malcolm, yeah, okay.
Sorry, me, Chair?
No, make that then you, Malcolm, please.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. yeah, I would like the point I made about the information station and about the necessity of maintaining face-to-face contact for residents who, may not feel very comfortable with IT contact. I think it's important to maintain that part of the communication process between council and residents.
Thanks very much, Councillor.
Could I just add to that? I agree with what Mick has said, but I think we should note and encourage a smooth transition whenever it takes place from the present information station down to the library. Yeah, because the services are moving out of the information station, aren't they, down to the library?
Yeah, I meant the facility. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter really if it was in the information station or in the library. It's the facility that is important.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish to change that, and I support that. But what worries me, you refer to elderly and so on, is that when they see a sign, we have moved to the library. I mean, we need to be pre-warning people that that's going to happen. We need to make sure there's a smooth transition of staff and the facility and the service to the library. And I just wanted that added as an addendum, if that's the expression.
Thank you.
Okay, where else were we at now?
Sorry, Chair, what about me?
Malcolm, yes, you. I can see you flashing. I can't see your hand, but I can see you.
Okay, yeah, okay. Just a quick one regarding what you're taking back about the water at the cemetery. Because just I did mention about shelter from the rain. It doesn't have to be expensive. Just a little somewhere where they can go under rather than getting caught out if they haven't got vehicles.
Thanks, Councillor. That's also been noted.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Linton. Anything else?
If there's no further recommendations for city services, was there anything that in particular the committee would like to take forward in regards to the finance service area?
Oh, can I come in?
Mick, yes, please.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then-
I think, it's a very positive story there about helping businesses over the COVID period. And I think this is something that, the council ought to consider in terms of making it more known, really. I know I've seen people criticizing, the help they get in or get or didn't get. And I think it's mostly because they're not aware fully of what has been done, actually. So I think it's, I would like to see, that we recommend that they ought to consider really making that point a bit more prominently, more strongly, so that, people know that £47 million has been dispersed to businesses operating in Newport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think everybody would agree with that, Mick. Fine.
Yeah.
Councillor Berry.
Yeah, sorry, my raised hand doesn't seem to be working, or is it? Because I certainly can't see it.
I can't see it either, so carry on, Councillor
Yeah,
Perry.
not a problem. Listen, we're basically, we've been through a masher as a council and as employees of the council, etc. And we've come out looking very good. But it would be nice if at some point in time we could document all the highs and all the lows that's occurred over this period of time so that we can learn from them and become ever more efficient as things evolve in the future. Is that possible? Get somebody to do it.
Well, I think we can record that view, and it's nothing. It's a sensible idea because you learn from experience, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You learn from your mistakes, and we've made mistakes, but unfortunately, we're not capturing them in case they come out the wrong way. That we're basically telling people off. Hey, look, you made a mistake.
I was careful not to use the word mistakes. Councillor,
I understand, but we got to be open about these things and learn from those to make sure that when anything like this ever happens again, we're ready for it and we're more prepared. Yeah.
Point taken. Okay. Any other councillor, please?
I mean, just on that point, Graham, we really had to, in a lot of the cases, we had to be guided by the Welsh government in the way we dealt with the COVID and its impact on services and movement of residents and, availability of council facilities and all that sort of thing. So, I mean, should we have another crisis like this? Hopefully not, obviously, for many years to come. Situation may be different and so on. I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't record it, but we have to react. That's the whole idea. If you got a good council, a good responsive council, a good government, as it has been the case with the Welsh government in its approach to COVID, then things will happen, and they will happen mostly properly. Really, that's all you can say and do.
Yeah.
Okay, I take a different view. If quite clearly we've made a success of this, and we have, or is it too soon to say that? Then we just need to record those things that went well as those things that didn't go well. And even if we don't use them, and even if they don't join the rich mix of learnings that occur in the future, at least they're there and logged, and people can't say, well, we didn't record it and we didn't learn from the things that went wrong, and we certainly haven't applied the good things. It's just it's good practice that has been used in good industries throughout the world.
Yeah. Understand what you're saying. Thank you. Right. Any other committee member? Okay, if not, we move on to the final item on the agenda, item 5, scrutiny report, performance scrutiny committee people.
Thanks, Chair. This would be just detailing the next 2 meetings for the committee. For the annual forward work programme, we've got the next meeting Monday, the 6th of September at 4 o'clock. We've got Rhys Cornwall and Rachel Davis coming in to discuss the staff support, which is the update from the service area to provide information on how staff were supported during the pandemic. We also have the Tracy Brooks coming back as well. She's going to be giving an update on the economic growth strategy and the recovery plan as well. Then after that, it would be the service area mid-year reviews on the 1st of November. So that would be reviewing the green, amber and red measures again for the mid-year performance. And we'll have law and regulation and people and business change service areas coming for that.
Okay, thank you, Neil. Any questions on that committee, please?
No. Can I just ask a question? Sorry, I might have missed it at the. It's only the committee. We are just the committee at the moment. Is that right?
Yes, I think so. I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened to the chair of the committee? Is he not well?
He's sent his apologies. He has, councillor, for that.
Yeah, but that's twice now, isn't it?
Yeah, he's still currently ill at the moment, but hopefully we'll have him back soon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I made similar inquiries, yeah. Okay, any other points, any other business? No? Well, I'll thank you all for attending. Thanks for your assistance. We've got through the meeting and meet again soon. Thank you very much. Okay.
Chair, thank you all.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you for chairing it, Chair.
Yes.